excited to welcome to the Kelly Alexander Show, dancer, choreographer, artistic director, teacher, the list goes on and on, Cassidy Noblett, who has danced with so many people, Lady Gaga, Beyonce, Janet Jackson, Spice Girls, my goodness, everybody else. Cassidy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We're so happy to have you on the show and so many questions. But first, I want to bring you back to the beginning. So how did you get your start in dance?
In the womb. So
Okay.
my mother's a dance teacher and my older sister's a dancer. So I really feel like my spirit chose this family because they were full-on dancers. And I mean, I was, every time my mom was teaching class, it depended on what the class was, would determine how active I was in her stomach. So then, by the time I was like, it's 2 weeks early, I'm coming out, I need to dance. And so I've been dancing literally since I could breathe or not breathe underwater.
That is so cool. And when you were growing up, like, did you, because your mom was a teacher, maybe you had an inspiration already for other dancers or choreographers that you would have started watching, maybe younger than other people would have, because that was your mom's job?
Yeah, well, when I first started, I started in New York. My mom started taking me and my sister to New York when I was 7 years old, and I was working with a guy named Jacques D'Amboise, who was Balanchine's protege. And so he really kind of opened my eyes in general for what the dance world could be, because he was a soloist at New York City Ballet. He was Balanchine's right-hand man. And once I started to go to New York, all of a sudden I started to see hip hop, and I started to see jazz, and I started to see Broadway, and I started to see music videos and street performers in the subway and on the corners. And that's when I kind of started to get, not just the itch for dance, but like the itch for commercial dance. So that really kind of excited me. And I was like, I have to do that. I have to do that.
That's amazing. Now, growing up, who did you listen to musically, like which artists, and have you danced with some of them in your career?
Janet was always my top. She was always my favorite artist, but I'm definitely a 90s R&B kid. So, I mean, it was Brandy 112, Khalees, Mary J. Blige, Tamia. The list goes on. If it didn't happen in the 90s, it for sure jam. And I actually listened to a bit of Spice Girls because I used to buy singles for CDs, but confession, I still don't buy electronic music. I buy CDs still, so I can play them in my Jeep. I still have a CD player, but I did have a Spice Girls DVD compact disc for Spice Up Your Life, and I was like, oh my god! So I've danced with Spice Girls. I did have Beyonce albums. I did have Katy Perry albums. I did have Lady Gaga albums. So I'm trying every CD that I own. I'm trying to dance with that artist or choreograph or work with them in some nature.
That is good. And I think you're the only other person that I've met in the last like 5 or 6 years that actually also just listens to CDs and doesn't have digital music like myself, because I'd rather have vinyl or CDs. So I understand you.
Well, my thing is, if I'm going to pay the same amount of money, I want the artwork. I want the lyrics, because that's what I grew up doing. The way I learned lyrics to songs wasn't on my phone. It was that I would sit there and I would rewind and I'd read them, and I would recite them and read them and recite them and read them. And. So I love that nostalgia, because I think so many things are going to disappear in the future that I want to hold on to that little nugget that was my childhood.
Totally agree. That's amazing. Now, what would you consider your first big break that really like got your career going in Hollywood or New York or however you want to phrase it?
It's a good question. My actual first, this is a crazy thing. My very, 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 very first job, I was an extra in Britney Spears and Madonna's "Me Against the music video, where I met Nick Flores. He was the nicest dancer ever. We were standing in the back, and he was on top of a speaker waiting to jump down to go to his part. And that's when I met Nick. And Nick has been such a monumental influence in my life as far as someone I've worked with and who has helped mentor me. Him and RJ both have been fantastic inspirations. So I actually met Nick on my very first job. But I would say, that was kind of gave me the bug there. And then when I moved to LA, my very first job was Macy's Passport with Brian Friedman. So I started dancing with Brian, and I was in Rhapsody's company. Rhapsody James had a hip hop company in New York, and that really started to allow people to know a little bit about who we were, because we would always perform with the company. We were performing at the Pulse convention. So anywhere Rhapsody went, carnival, things like that, we would go. And so people started to know a little bit about us because we were always training. We were trying to be a part of her vision. But yeah, I guess my first big break, I really would say, would be Macy's Passport in Los Angeles once I moved out here.
Amazing. Now, we have a lot of Janet fans that watch this show and listen to this show. And so I have to ask you, when did the opportunity for Janet come along, and like how did that all sort of play out, like audition, like all that kind of stuff?
Okay, so it's actually kind of a crazy story. So I went to this audition that was happening for Janet, and this was during the era when she was doing Call on Me and So Excited and all of that. And I went to the audition and I actually didn't get it. I got cut, and I had actually come off being sick for a little while. So I didn't have the best audition, but I was like, I'm going. It's Janet Jackson. It's a once in a lifetime chance. This is what I want to do. And I went and I got cut, and I was a little bummed out about it. But a couple months later, J-Lo was having her show, and Blake McGrath was one of the dancers that was doing Janet, but he was also going to be on J-Lo's dance show. And it was like Kenny Warmall, Blake McGrath. There were a few people that were on it, and he wanted to stay a part of that show for a while. And so one day, out of the blue, it was in January, I got a call from Gil Duldalau. Oh, love you. And he was like, "Hey," and I was like, "Hi." He was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, getting ready to go take dance class." He was like, "Well, would you like to jump on to Janet with me?" And I said, "Wait, what? Me?" He was like, "Yeah, I'm looking to fill a spot, and I wanted to know if you would be interested." And I was like, "Keep your cool, keep your cool, keep your." I would love to. Inside, I'm like, just like panicking, moving stuff around, jumping. And so Gil actually called me and asked me if I wanted to join the squad. And so that was the beginning of Janet for me. Um, and I guess I thought that that ship had sailed since I didn't beat the audition. I didn't make it through it, but somehow the cards aligned, and I'm really happy that Gil took a chance on me.
So what was it like when, you were in, I guess, rehearsal or whatever, and she walks in for the first time? What was that like for you?
Oh, I needed so much super glue to like put myself back together. I was like, just those little, those little dolls, those little toys that used to have strings in them. They were wooden, and when you push them, they fall
Yeah.
apart. I mean, it's somebody that I had grown up watching. I've seen many tours, All For You tour. That was I lived by the Velvet Rope tour religiously. I had it on VHS. I actually had two copies in case one of them broke. And this was someone that I don't even say an icon, just a fantasy. Someone that I had wanted to be like, someone I had wanted to work with. I had wanted to be in the present because of how much they had molded my dancing and my dreams. Like someone that made me want to dream more because I knew that I wanted to be beside her. I wanted her training. I wanted her music. I wanted to be a part of her crew. And I knew how she made me feel. So I was like, I have to do it. I have to do it. So when she walks in and you meet her for the first time, I mean, I don't know if I could have, I don't know if there's been another time that I've been so happy because that was like my first big, big, big job with a huge artist where it wasn't just going to be a one off show, it was going to be a tour.
Mhm.
So that was a very special thing because when you go on tour, that team is pieced together a lot of the times for energies, for talent, for humanity. And this, I felt seen, I felt desired, I felt that she wanted me, her and Gil and the whole team wanted me to be there with them for the long haul. So, I mean, I probably shot up to outer space and just like supernova exploded and then just like came back and I was like, oh my God, it's happening. It's like your dreams are like here, they're happening. So it was monumental. It really made me believe in what was possible.
And was she, because so many people, whether, it's Janet or Madonna or Beyonce or whoever, like their idols, like, you're always told don't meet your idols, but you did. And so what did she surpass what your expectation of her would be, or was she exactly as you thought she would be?
No, she surpass that. And we know in our industry, sometimes you meet people that before you meet someone, you create an image of what they're going to be like. And that is based off all of their public displays. However you have had an experience with them, you create this image of them. And Janet was the first person in my life outside, like in the celebrity world, that I couldn't have dreamed of what she was actually going to be like. Someone that was beyond kind, someone who took the time to get to know you. I mean, we hung out with Janet all the time. You know, we would go out to bars, we would go out to eat. I mean, she took me to Nobu, me and the crew to Nobu for my birthday and got me this, her and Gail got me this beautiful Y3 bag. I mean, Janet was the most grateful human being I had ever met. And she was the most hardworking person I had ever met. So what surprised me and really kind of also helped resonate with something that I wanted for myself is humility, hard work, artistic value, kindness, love, no ego. And Janet was always that. That I never saw a different side of her. No matter how she was feeling, no matter who she was around, she always came from a place of love and compassion. And so I'm glad that that was my first experience with a big artist, because she's a Jackson. That's American royalty. And she was the person that could just sit beside you and at dinner and just have a conversation and ask you about your life. You know what I mean? So I envisioned her to be this, and then she was like 1,000 times better than that, you know? Always has been, always has been. Still to this day, even when I see her, she has the most love and kindness in her eyes and the warmest hugs, and is still so special.
Well, it's funny that you said that because in prepping for our chat today, I actually watched the dancer introductions from the Hollywood Bowl reunion. And so I wanted to see you, and like you just look so gleeful to see her and her to see you, which was amazing. So can you walk us through what it was like to like reunite with her and all those other dancers who I'm sure many of them you looked up to as you were growing up?
Yeah, well, I also feel like times have changed. So I used to know who the dancers were. You know, since social media and everything happens now, it's a different education system on who was doing what. You knew who Janet's dancers were. And when I got asked to do the Hollywood Bowl, because that was all tour dancers coming back, I was like, hold on. And it was everybody who was a legend in my eyes, who was a pioneer who paved the way for all of us to dance. And so I'm sitting here thinking, you're kidding me. The Hollywood Bowl is going to explode. And so the first day I got into rehearsal, I mean, I literally was like a little shy boy in the corner, like, because it was from her first tour all the way through what was the current tour. And it's just a special dancer. It takes a special human being and dancer to be welcomed into Janet's world. And I don't think any of us really know why we're chosen, but we're so excited to be chosen. We wanna rise to what they believe in us and what they see in us. So being on the stage and watching each individual group do a section, my God. And I used to take Anthony Thomas's class at Debbie Reynolds. So I used to take his popping and locking class. So Anthony became a really good friend of mine. And then, watching him teach material and break it down, and then just kind of watching every group come on. And it's such a clear time period for each group of dancers, because nowadays I don't feel like you have to know everything that came before you. But if you dance for Janet, you better know her entire history. You better know every style that goes along with it. You have to know why the music was created, why the dancing was created, what was going on in that time culturally. And so you saw such a distinctive style of dancer before you. And then all of a sudden on stage, you're like, this is an empire. This is a musical empire that is, oh my God, it was the best feeling. And then somehow I got to be right here off her shoulder for when we came in as a group, and I'm like, I mean, what other artist though do you know has ever taken the time to introduce every single dancer that has been with her? I can't tell you one, but
Yeah.
that's who she is. It's not, hi, I'm Janet. I want to show you all my dancers. It was, hi, these people have been a part of my life. I want to say thank you, and I would love to introduce them by their names. Like that's where that comes from.
Mhm.
And when someone shows you that kindness, I don't, it's not always common in our industry. So it's just this open door, and you just start to flow and believe, and everything disappears. Everything disappears, and you're the happiest person ever.
And it's funny because I've interviewed, several dancers of Janet's in the past, and I'm actually pretty good friends with Tina Landon, which is like still mind blowing to me. So, yeah, she's next level.
Icon.
And what's interesting is like you guys, and this has come up before, that you guys are a part of like a fraternity or a sorority that only a select amount of people get to be a part of, and you're a Janet dancer for the rest of your life. Like that could go on your tombstone. You know what I mean? Like, is it
Good
something? Yeah.
idea. I haven't thought about that. I might do that. Good idea.
Cool. And what does it feel like to be a part of that group? Like even let's say hanging out with a Velvet Rope dancer crew as opposed to like Rock Witchu tour. Like you're still all a part of that seniority, but you said like, or sorority, I should say, and fraternity. But you said Velvet Rope really influenced you. So I'm wondering like what that feels like to have just know that you're a part of this massive group, but part of your own thing at the same time.
I feel lucky, but I also feel a responsibility because it doesn't matter what you did or who you did it for, but that title is something that is ongoing because of what you were able to achieve and the kind of um, boot camp that you go through and the kind of environment that you are surrounded with and the kinds of like-minded people who are all working to their absolute best and beyond. To be in a camp where, I remember, oh my God, when we were training for Rock, actually, were we training for Rock? No, we were training for the 20YO tour. And we were at Alley Cat back in the day. And Gil was like, all right, get ready. We're going to run the entire tour twice back to back. And we said, what? Twice back to back. The show was already like 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Oh my God.
I was like, we had learned 23 numbers at this point. And he was like, here's some royal jelly, like honey. And he was like, take it. And we were like going. I had never been pushed so hard in my life to where I thought I was going to break. And all of a sudden it was because he knew that we could get there. She knew that we could get there. Ed knew that we could get there. We just had to be given the door to do it. We had to be given the opportunity for ourselves to rise to the occasion. And I think it takes having an inspiration like that, though, to want to do that, to feel like it's possible. So the legacy of being a Janet dancer, it warms my heart because for me, I'm always a person that's like, what is my next thing? Like, I don't care what I did yesterday. What am I doing now? Like, cool, I danced for Beyonce. Cool, I danced for God. Great, but that was then. What am I doing tomorrow? What am I doing the next day? It's like, what is my next thing? That is one of those special moments, though, that always makes me feel like I'll keep that. That's on those rainy days where I'm not sure of myself or I doubt myself. And I'm like, you should dance with Janet. Great. So you have a legacy that you have to uphold, and you have a responsibility to continue that kind of discipline, detail, charisma, humility with you for your entire career because you are still representing a legacy of somebody else. So it's like a badge of honor, and it's also a reminder of the greatness that we can still achieve even once we're past it.
When you were learning the choreography for the tour, what is your favorite piece of choreography to learn, and what was the most challenging for you?
Okay, well, the most challenging originally was So Excited. And the reason So Excited was so challenging for me is because I was the new person. So I started training for the 20YO tour before I did the Rock Witchu tour. So the 20YO tour, we trained for 2.5 months in Atlanta while she was shooting a movie, and the Why Did I Get Married? And we were doing a show at the Atlantis to open up the new tower, the Cove. And so we had trained for this whole time. And So Excited was my hardest number because I was the only one that had not been performing that. Every other person had been doing So Excited for months. So that one was really hard for me. That one was really difficult because it's kind of something that they could do because they've been not, y'all didn't just learn it, y'all were performing it. So that one kicked my butt. Ended up becoming one of my favorite numbers, especially when we got to do different versions of it. Like the Awards show version and stuff, and you're like, yes. When you get the extra different music edits and the different accents and breakdowns, and you're like, oh, it's so cool. But I Get Lonely is always going to be one of my favorite pieces, hands down. Always will be. I really did love Love. I think Ed and Gil and Luther, that was our final number after we did 27 numbers in the Rock Witchu tour.
Wow.
And that was the final. It was crazy. I still can't imagine that the very end of that tour, the final thing was Black Cat into If, into Rhythm Nation, into Love. And I was like, do you know, every night I got on that stage and I literally would go like this and when we were on the runway, I'd be in the dark, I'd be like, please let me just get through this set. Please let me get through, because we'd already done 23 numbers. Yeah. It was like a 2.5 hour show. So I was just praying. I Get Lonely was a favorite. I do love Feedback.
Yeah.
I love Feedback. And I really loved, God, there's so many ones. Our World Doesn't Really Matter was amazing. When doing choreography that came before me that I used to watch music videos and just die to and just be like, I want to do that. I think every time I got to perform that, I was head over heels. I mean, it's the coolest thing because I could always offer you. I mean, when we do that, what number isn't good of Janet's?
Yeah.
Because Janet is one of the only artists that does production numbers for every song that comes out. Full production number.
Amazing. It's funny because Tina Landon and I were talking, and she said that being, let's say, on the Velvet Rope tour, obviously they did X amount of cities and X amount of performances and all that stuff. And she said that Janet's music is one of the only ones in her life that she's never gotten tired of. Like, she never gets tired of a Janet song or performing a Janet song.
Yeah, and because you're also challenged. It's not a number that you can sleep through. You have to be present. You have to be engaged. And it requires integrity when you are performing. There is such intention behind each move. It is not just paired with an idea, which is not just paired with a formation, but it's paired with a texture. So you have to be so present when you are dancing, every single number that you do, that if you sleep on it, you miss the magic. You know what I mean? You're really engaged and plugged into Janet's material. It's also just, I mean, it always works with the music. The dancing and the music just are perfect harmonies, and it's dense and it's exciting and it changes, and it's always that hook that you're like, everybody knows the steps to Janet's material. I swear every single dancer, if you ask them, show me a Janet step, they'll be like, how many do you want to see? Because I can probably show you. Oh, All Night Don't Stop. There we go. That, I don't know why. That is my favorite number of all time to do. Okay. All Night Don't Stop. My favorite.
Amazing.
Wait, do you want to hear a funny story?
Yes, please. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so after Janet, I jumped onto Beyonce's tour, and Beyonce took us out. She rented a yacht one day so that we could all, when we were in the Caribbean, and so we all just went out and hung out. And B was like, Cassidy, will you show us All Night Don't Stop from Janet? And I was like, in like little board shorts, and I'm like, sure. So I'm on the back of the boat, all of a sudden doing all the choreography, and I do a jump back and I slip and fall off the back of the boat as it's moving. And the bodyguard Julius jumps in to save me. Thought I hit my head. Oh my God, I was so embarrassed. Everybody was like, yeah, and I was like, go right into the ocean.
Oh my God, Cassidy, I'm glad you're alive.
Me too. All Night Please Stop is what they started calling me.
Oh my God. I hope one day, does Janet know that story? I hope you one day get to tell Janet that story.
I've never told her. I feel like I'm a little embarrassed. I was like doing it barefoot in the Caribbean, and then like, wackadoo, bam, bam, bam. Could have gotten eaten by a shark. So
Oh my God. Now, if memory serves, that tour ended a bit early though, right? For you guys, like, wasn't it supposed to go longer?
yeah,
But what was that like, the ending? Because I don't think we really knew. It just kind of felt like it stopped.
it was it's heartbreaking because we had feelings. So after we did the one show at the Cove Atlantis, LA Reid and Jermaine came in and they're like, "Hey, we need you to go record another album." And we were like, "We've been training for tour for 2.5 months. We're not going on tour?" Really? Okay. Okay. Well, when we come back. So then all of a sudden we're doing Rock With You and we're having the time of our lives. The tour's really kind of just starting to get going and we're starting to do it. And, you know, the ending of something that makes you happy, the ending of one of the happiest times in your life is never easy. I think you go through depression, your heart is broken. Um, you're sad because you know that time will never come back, you know, unless if, because the moment she starts making new music, the Rock With You tour is gone. It's done. That tour will never happen again. That stage was mega.
Yep.
I mean, the runways this way, and then the ramps and everything on it was just so magical. I'm so sad that the entire world didn't get to experience it live. Yes, people have seen it, but you didn't get to experience it in the flesh and see the magic. I mean, I was blown away by the crew that I was getting to perform with. That's really cool when you're inspired and admire the people you're on stage with. That's pretty major. Um, to be on a team like that, but it's heartbreaking. It really is heartbreaking. All the hard work that's gone into it, and it's not about the money. It's not, actually not even about seeing the world. It's like not getting to perform stuff that makes you happy, like not having that tunnel of life. So,
Mhm.
but as she had to take care of herself, and that was the most important thing. Is like we support it, just selfishly, heartbroken.
And are you still tight with like your fellow Rock With You dancers? Like, I'm sure obviously you've all moved on to different projects, but you're still like, that's your team.
Yes, I love. The thing is like after you leave those camps, everybody starts doing their own thing. So I don't get to see everybody all the time, except Victor, who is one of my best friends. Victor's been one of my best friends for years since Spice Girls, actually since Janet, because we were on Janet together. And literally, he's probably been the one person I've worked with more than anyone in my entire career. We just happen to be on the same jobs all the time. I mean, the two Janet jobs, Spice Girls. Uh, he was still with Lady Gaga for like the last 13 years. I did that tour with him too. So it's like I've done like 4 world tours with Victor, and we still work together to this day. So I see him a lot. I get to see Jillian. I get to see Laurel, Wiley, Teddy. All of us, our paths collide, but everybody is really, that's the thing. Janet dancers want to have their own legacy. So we want to take what we were given and we want to run with it. So when the paths collide, it's like old times. We shoot the shit, we laugh, we on each other, we dance, we eat, and yeah, I wish I saw them all the time. I miss them.
Now, speaking of Victor, talk to us about your collaborations with him, because I know, like you said, you work with him. So talk to us about Kid Lab. What is that, and how does that involve with Victor?
Well, Victor's one of my best friends, and I think it's great when you find someone that not only challenges you to think differently, but someone who, when he taught a class in New York when I was 18, he had just moved to LA. He was in Rhapsody's company too, but he came back and he taught a class in New York. And I took it and I was like, who the hell is this guy? Like, he's in my top 3 dancers of all time. Still is to this day. He's exceptional. So we've been friends forever and we love to dance together. So we started a group called Kid Lab. And the whole purpose of Kid Lab is that me and him like to see the world differently than everybody else. So we only direct music videos together. We actually are going to have a class the last Monday of every month now, because I teach at Team Elite. We're going to have a Kid Lab class where we teach together. We started a TikTok page because we just want to do videos that are kind of off the beaten path. We like to see the world. It's like there was for example, Victor was standing on the corner, like waving in this like sweater, and I like cut him off to try to get a car in front of him. And all of a sudden he gets mad and he goes, yeah. And all of a sudden we end up in the same sweatshirt. And we're like, oh my God, like we're stuck literally in the same sweatshirt and we're trying to get out. And then he sinks into it. And all of a sudden the camera goes inside the shirt. And the next thing you know, we're literally dancing inside a sweater together, like what the inside of the sweater would be like. So we just want to push the boundaries of creativity. We want to take what people are doing in social media and videos, and we want to flip it on its head and show a different creative approach, just to show that there are other options. And I think that's the way we like to think. We like art, we like fashion, we like music, we like spectacle. And yeah, this is going to be the first year that Kid Lab is becoming a big, big thing.
That's so cool. And people can follow you on TikTok at Kid Lab. So KIDLABB.
Yes, yes,
Perfect.
yes, yes. And
Perfect.
yes, it's great. And his Instagram is Kid Peru, KIDPERU. And so you'll see both on both of our pages. We always have each other. Just because I'm a super fan.
And now I want to gush over your work on L Word, because I'm a huge fan of the show. And recently, well, I'm going to ask you all about L Word, but recently the episode that was the musical episode where they basically went into the inner workings of their minds, and it was like this musical. So many of them, Kate Menig and Leisha Haley, and they just were gushing about you on social media, like how much you helped them, you know, get through this and do a good job. And they had fun, especially for like, I was surprised how excited Kate was about like being a dancer for like a hot minute. So tell us how L Word came about, and specifically this episode that you just knocked it out of the park.
Well, thank you first. I'm really, that was a very special moment for me in general. So the way it all came to fruition is I went to NYU for a semester, and there I met, I had a best friend named Dan Carlisle, and he became friends with 3 other people. And Marja happens to be one of those people. Marja is the showrunner for L Word. So last year, in like March, Marja called, because I told her when they moved out to LA, I became friends with all of them, because I only went to a semester at NYU, and then I moved to New York, and then I moved out to LA when I was 2. Dan and then Marja and the other 3 friends all moved to 6 months after I got there. So I became friends with them. And I always told Marja, I said, Marja, you know, one day when you become famous, if you ever need a dancer or choreographer, let me know. Well, lo and behold, last year she called me. She goes, hey, it's Marja. And I was like, what's going on? And she was like, so I kind of have this idea for a dance number in the show. And I was like, okay. And she was like, do you want to do it? And I was like, yes, I want to do it. She was like, well, you told me if I ever needed someone to call you. And I was like, well, I didn't think you were really going to do that. I was like, yeah, I wanted it, but okay. So she asked me to do this thing called prom proposal. It was like a prom proposal in a fountain, and we did umbrellas and this whole dance thing. And it was really cool. And then this year, Marja called me back in, oh my God, in May, said, hey, there may be something coming up. Do you want to be a part of it? I was like, yes, of course I want to be a part of it. And at the end of June, Marja was like, so let's talk. And I was like, great. She goes, so I want to do a musical. I said, oh, great. Awesome. On the show. And I was like, what, like a number 2? She was like, 6. I said, 6. I said, okay, with like just like a couple dancers or whatever. She was like, you know, like maybe 10 to 12. I said 10 to 12. Okay. When are we shooting this thing? She was like, well, I can probably get the music to you in like 2 weeks, and then we'll shoot by like the first week of August. I said, hold on. You want a 6-number musical with like 10 dancers and actors, and I'm going to get the music maybe middle July, and we were going to shoot the first week of August? You got to be crazy. I'm in. So it became a thing where I was like, well, I jumped right on top of it. So I was like, I'm going to have an audition. And I think the reason this project became so important to me was it's like the first time that I was steering the ship for my creativity. It was my energy that I wanted at this audition. It's how I was going to treat and see people. And the experience for everyone is what meant the most to me. I wanted people to walk away with this experience being like, I feel seen, I feel appreciated, I feel like I am at my best right now, and I want to make some magic. Because it's not, who cares about the job, really? It's like, what kind of imprint are you leaving on people's lives? What kind of imprint are you leaving on the people that you come in contact with, the people who are watching the show? Like, that's the most important thing to me. And it's got to be good work. But you know, I think the dancers had less than 2.5 days per number, and these numbers were about 3.5 minutes long. And Marlon Paleo was my assistant, who I could not have done this without, because he was by my side. So we spent like a week prepping, trying to get all of these numbers done, and then building these numbers. I mean, like I was teaching a number a day. It doesn't leave a lot of time for, workshopping and figuring out things. It's like, here we go. This is what it's going to be. And so I was probably working 15 to 20 hour days every day so that I could get it, look at it, fix it, make it better. And then all of a sudden I get to work with Ro and Leisha and Kate, and there's a big pressure on me. These are the stars of the show. So I have a big responsibility. One, I have to introduce dance to them if it doesn't feel comfortable. I have to introduce the concept because, everybody's working on so much on the show. So they're not just shooting one episode. It's not like, okay, from July to August, we're just doing this episode. No, they're shooting other scenes from other episodes. Everybody is still writing. The whole production side is still working. So they're like, great. So this is going to happen here. This is the concept. Oh, okay. I'm gonna run with it. Okay, got it. I'm running with everything. I'm trying to create from scratch. And honestly, Ro and Leisha and Kate could not have been more on board. Not once did they have a bad attitude. Not once did they say, I can't do this. They were so eager for doing something new in like such a good way. It's like they're going to do something that they haven't done on the show before. So they are pumped. But they committed to me every single time. And which made my heart the biggest thing was that I had to leave for a week to go to do a dance convention. They rented their own dance studio and practiced. They literally went to where we had been rehearsing with the dancers, didn't tell me, called the lady up at West Coast Dance Theater, and then they went there and practiced on their own with the choreography that they knew. So I'm a proud papa right now. Like, I can tell that you want this. And the reason it came to life was, I feel like what I tried to do for myself was really steer this, not as a dancer, but to steer the narrative first. What was the audience who may not watch Glee or Smash or these musical shows? How can I introduce a musical genre that is quite pedestrian, that may not offend or push people off because it's so like Broadway, 40 seconds, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. What is that middle ground for them? And so that was my challenge, is something that was approachable, acceptable, exciting, fun, still kind of downtown. And then making sure that my three leads looked fantastic, made sure that it wasn't out of their range, and also out of their character, that they wouldn't do it. So that was kind of interesting. The narrative is steering it. But the reason it came to life is because these actors ventured into a space with me that was vulnerable. They let me guide them, and then they also decided to go into spaces that they had never really been before. And watching where they started to where they finished, I mean, it wasn't even a 360. It was like a 720, however many more. It was like 4 spins past that. And like watching Ro perform from the moment I started with her on her number to where she got to for the final thing, after every take, I was like, yes. I mean, I was pumped. The first day I told Leisha, I was like, you're gonna fall back and then they're gonna lift you overhead. She was like, okay, boom. It just went up into the sky. And I'm like, are you okay? She was like, this is amazing. And I was like, oh my God, I love you. And then like the first day with Kate too, I was like, so you're gonna do this? She was like, well, can I do more? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, great, what if we do some of this? And I'm like, everybody was gung-ho about it. Everybody wanted to rise to this occasion. And then for me on the production side, not a single ego. From the 50 people that I worked with at L Word, there was not one ego that I approached. And every single person, from Valerie, who was doing the set designs, to Moira, who was doing lighting, and Nancy, who was the director, and Marja, and the executive producers, Elise, the music squad, the costuming. Everybody decided that if we were shooting for the stars, they were going to shoot for the galaxy past that. When we encountered a thing like we need this, everybody pulled out the stops to make this happen. So, I mean, and for me, you're lucky when you get any kind of choreography on television, right? So you can prepare a number and then maybe like 4/8 to make it. I got to have 6 numbers in this musical episode. I mean, it was like 20 minutes of dancing. Every song was generally 3.5 to 4 minutes. And if 2 minutes made it, I was like, oh my God, like, I have choreography on this show that we're doing something new. It hasn't been done on L Word yet. So it felt like a dream sequence again. It'd been a while since I've been into a fantasy land of my own in my career. And to just be in a space that was literally so loving and kind and positive and hardworking from the moment you saw somebody till the last 17th hour of shooting, not one attitude. I mean, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So L Word was one for the heart. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations. And it's funny because I'm like an ardent listener of Kate and Leisha's podcast. And so earlier on in the summer, I remember them because obviously they can't, they couldn't give away any storyline or plot line or whatever. But all they happened to mention to us listeners was like Kate said something like, my lower back is sore, and like we have something really cool we're working on. And I actually thought it was some sort of like, action scene that they were, something crazy was going to happen on the show, because they just kind of, the little bits of information they gave was that it was just like some physical stuff. So I'm like, oh, but they're doing their own stunts, like some kind of business. And then when the musical episode came out, I was like, that's what they were talking about back in the summer when they were each in pain and like needing Advil or whatever it was. So.
And I was gonna say, one thing that was really quite interesting is I don't know if I ever got all 3 of them together to rehearse a number, but maybe for like an hour or 2. Because if Leisha was shooting, Ro and Kate were free. Or if it was free, Ro and Leisha were both shooting. Or if Ro was free, Leisha and Kate were. It was like everybody, sometimes I would rehearse and be like, okay, guys, we're gonna film this one. We don't have Kate right now because she's shooting another scene. Great, we're gonna film this one. Leisha and Ro both are not here. So the fact that they were able, thank God they have chemistry. Thank God they have that kind of bond where they can lean on each other. And if anything goes wrong, as the celebrity or the star, it's okay. But with this, they just work together. They were always practicing. So kudos to them for the fact that if you saw how little they got for what they did, I'm going to keep that a secret, but I'm just going to say they really rose to the occasion. But they rose to the occasion because they put in all the just when I don't know where they got their free time, but they were practicing in studios, they were practicing at home, they were making sure between all their stuff, they were on top of their game. So and they were always open to like corrections, like, tell me what I need to do better. Every take, what can I do to make it better? What do you need more of? What about, I was like, it's fantastic. It wasn't like, let me do my thing. It was like, how do I fix it? And I'm like, you don't need to fix it. Just keep going.
Well, congratulations, because again, I believe on all 3 social or their social media networks, they either shouted you out in the podcast or they said on their socials like how they would have not got through it without you. And so congratulations to all the work that you did, especially having to hustle in like such a short amount of time. So Cassidy, that's amazing.
Thank you. I'm so glad you liked it. That makes me happy.
Oh yeah, like I was so shocked to see the episode happen, and then again as it was happening, my brain just kept going back to like when I listened to the podcast in the summer. I'm like, this is why they were in so much physical pain. So that's amazing.
They were so sweet too. They made us sweatpants. They gave all the dancers sweatpants from their TV show, and they are so cute. They're these beautiful purple ones, and they've got their pup on them too. I mean, it's called pants. I mean, it's great.
That's amazing. Well, I'm super happy. And now that you've done this, and I know you work with RJ and Nick on Come Dance With Me, you've done stuff. So what's coming up next for you, like TV wise? Do you have stuff coming, or are you heading back out to do more dancing yourself as a performer? Like what's next for Cassidy?
Cassidy right now I'm really trying to carve out a lane that I think is a hard one to exist as being a choreographer and director as well as a performer. I just find that selfishly, I still love being the on-screen talent. I don't know why. It just really, that still speaks to me a lot. But I also love being behind the camera because I have so many ideas and I love creating. So I'm teaching a lot right now. I'm working with Kid Lab. I'm also auditioning as a performer, and then I'm also kind of creating my own passion projects. Um, I'm working on a TV show lately with Galen Hooks, who's doing a TV show called Good Trouble, and so I'm working as a dancer on that, which has been really great. So currently, that's just kind of what's going on. You know what, my training is really big right now too. I'm starting to get back into circus art, so I'm training in trapeze and silk right now, and I just find that every year I need to be a new artist. So that means I need to change the classes that I'm taking. I need to switch up my discipline, and there's a lot of things I have on the horizon I want for myself. Also, I want to write a children's book with my mom that we're working on. I have a couple little inventions that I want to do. So I want my own empire this year.
That's perfect. I'm down because you are definitely a talent, and it's been so great to have you on the show. And I did want to ask you too, before I let you go, what advice would you give to an up and coming dancer right now? Because you've managed to stay in the game for a long time and you're still reinventing yourself and still, challenging yourself. And I think that, there's so many dancers that come up that might think, oh, I have a finite amount of time before like my performing career is over. What do you say to up and coming dancers to think big and think long term and say how they can stay relevant and in the game?
Hmm. I have a couple things I would say. One, don't be afraid to dream. It's really important to dream in this industry. And once you achieve something that you want, add four more dreams to that list. Um, when you are looking at your path, we as individuals see it straight on. So we're like, that's the goal right there that I want. And so we work so hard to get there. And something I encourage is that work towards what you want and be very clear with the universe on what you want, but you also have to surrender to let the universe guide you in the path that it is, because you see from this angle, but the universe sees from bird's eye view. So you may want to get to right here, but your actual path from bird's eye view may be this. And eventually it comes to this. So surrendering a little bit and not being such a control of what you, of how there, put in the work, really work their humanity. Humanity is so important. Being kind and being loving, not to just the people around you, but yourself. So it's hard. This business is hard. And the thing that has made me stay consistent and still love what I do is that I love myself 2 or 3 times harder than I am hard on myself. Um, if you can learn to not compare yourself to other people to validate your value, that's a hard, because we all do it. We see people that have things that we want. We see people that are achieving things or at different levels than we are. But if you start to understand that you are where you are supposed to be at this exact moment, accept your path and journey, that will allow you to actually flourish and open up as an artist. The main thing I think that stands in each one of our ways is ourself, is our own self-doubt and our fear. Ideas, things, don't criticize an idea or what you are doing in the moment, because you stunt your ability to express. Let an idea be born, then go back and reflect on it after it's already come out. And this was something that really helps me. Oh, another, spirituality, whatever that means for you, taking care of the non-physical self, meaning whether you like to pray or like to sit quiet or be in nature or go on walks or meditate, which is my go-to. Taking care of your non-physical being is so important, because we aren't just driving just a vehicle that goes to the thing. It's a vehicle with a beautiful interior and a driver and a temperature and a radio on the inside. So we have to remember that we work much on the outside of our body the whole time, that we really have to take care of the inside. And one final little piece I think that has been monumental for me is after my first audition. So my very first audition I was going to, I told my mom, I told my sister, I told my dad, told everybody about it. What happened? I didn't get the job. Shocker. I had to listen from every single individual. How did it go? Oh, it's okay. So I kept reliving the disappointment over and over and over. After my very first audition, I stopped telling anyone that I had an audition. Why did I do that? I did that because what it then allowed me was to go into a space, to express myself, be an artist, and then to leave and remove myself from the event. You know, of course, I was going to think about it a little, but I never had reminders of, did I get it? Am I getting it? How did you do? Blah, blah, blah. How did you compare? I didn't have any extra voices. So it allowed my art to be really clean. It allowed me to just do my best and then leave. And then I would go back to training and doing all those other things. And I just say that has been a huge, huge, huge part of my happiness, because it subtracts the disappointment that you experience in this, in this industry. So go do your art for yourself. And then after things come, feel free to share them once there's been a complete thing, but be happy for the people that get it, because your time is coming. And when your time comes, I'm sure that you would like your friends and your peers to be supporting you, because they know how hard you've worked. So it is a community. Please don't act as an individual. Feel free to be an individual in this community, but also remember that you are part of a community, and all of your actions reflect the people that are a part of here. And if you can do no harm and you can do nothing but celebrate and elevate one another, it's going to be a fantastic space to have a life in.
Cassidy, that's so well said, and I hope you have like little talks at the end of your dance classes, because people need to hear you talk about this. You know what I mean? So keep that up, because I think people need to hear your thoughts and your spirit. And I just want to thank you for doing this. And I have to ask you last question. Janet's going back on tour. Are you going to see her when she comes to LA?
Yeah, I mean, that's always a given. I have to. I don't like to miss Janet's shows.
Okay.
I don't. I mean, the Vegas show. Did you see it? Oh my God, did you see it?
I wasn't able to get there, sadly, but
Oh, when I tell you, I didn't think that I could be more excited by the dancing. And then when you got to add in the sets and the technology involved, child, it was some next level stuff. So yeah, when she comes here, I will for sure be going, because my friends, but also, like, why not go find that space again? I want to be on that tour.
yeah, well, let's put your name in. Let's talk to Gil. Thank you so
Hi,
much for
Gil.
doing this. Thank you so much for doing this, and I hope you'll come back on the show again, because you're fantastic, and I'd love to have you back on.
Anytime, anytime. Thank you for having me.
That is Cassidy Noblett. Don't forget to check him out. Follow him on Instagram at Cassidy. Actually, sorry, at Thumperduce. And make sure you follow him on TikTok with Victor at KidLab. Hey, it's Kelly, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank one of our biggest supporters here on Kelly Alexander Show and Just Dance, Shino Harate. Shino, thank you so much for powering the current episode of the Kelly Alexander Show, featuring our guest, dancer and choreographer Cassidy Noblett. Shino, thank you so much for supporting us. We truly appreciate it. And if you would like to be like Shino and support the Kelly Alexander Show and Just Dance, it is very simple. Hit up our website, hy.page/Kelly Alexander Show, and hit the official supporter button. And by donating, you too can have your name in the credits.